Welcome into an emergency PFF NFL Daily because the Los Angeles Rams just won a football game and Baker Mayfield was their quarterback. Say that out loud to someone 4 days ago, they'll be very confused. But make Baker Mayfield with the dramatic 16-3 comeback. They were down 16-3, and much like Monday Night Football, when the Bucs made that same exact comeback, they win 17-16. Baker Mayfield, fresh off the plane in LA, Sam, and he gets the win for the Rams. What did we just watch?
Ridiculousness. 2 days notice. Baker Mayfield comes in here. He gives a shout out to like all the coaches that helped him study for this game, to Sean McVay, to Liam, to Zach Robinson, his QB coach. Those guys somehow got him ready to not just come into the game, but actually play well and execute a couple of game-winning drives late on. I mean, this was crazy. The idea that he was capable of going out there and even having enough command of the playbook to simply execute any kind of offense after 48 hours is pretty crazy. Like, remember that the 49ers bring in Christian McCaffrey, and it seemed kind of crazy that he could play a couple of days after being traded for, and he had like a package. You know, here's a running back package of
catch a couple
plays.
Screens.
Right.
Yeah.
And he went to Stanford, by the way. And he, learned himself a little package of plays to be able to play more or less, right? Baker Mayfield had to run the offense and then had to do it in 2-minute situations where, where they're going silent count, right? Because it's a home game, but it's LA. So there's more Raiders fans there than there are Rams fans. So he's got to go silent count. He's got to make adjustments on the fly. He's got to actually run the offense like he knows what he's doing, and did it to a reasonable degree, and then executed a couple of legit game-changing drives late on.
Oh man, it was a crazy finish because you're talking everything that you just described there, and for the rest of the game, the expectations were so low. It was like, does Baker even know if it's a run or a pass? Will he catch the snap and hand it off the right way? And every now and again, you saw like he'd run the wrong way, he'd run play action the wrong way, whatever it was, and I guess that's understandable. The expectations were so low, but I can't remember if we joked about this on air or off air that maybe, not having anything in his head and really just showing up and playing football instinctively would be better for Baker Mayfield. And you kind of saw that in the 2-minute drill in 2 drives, right? Back-to-back drives, leading touchdown drives for the Rams in they were down 16-3 and then came back, in the last 5 minutes of the game.
And the funny thing is, they kind of trusted him right away. Like, I don't even know why Walford was starting the game, because it didn't sound like he was ever likely to be really legitimately ready to go, given a neck injury and et cetera. So they put him out there. He played the first drive, and then it was Baker from that point on. And I think it was his very first play, right? It was a nice drop back pass where he hit a guy over a linebacker. Really nice pass immediately. Like, this was not the sort of standard MO for, we have a quarterback we don't trust who maybe doesn't know what he's doing or just isn't very good, hand it off, or quick bubble screen or something like that. No, like, first play, drop back pass. Let's let Baker sling this thing. And then, when you got late on, the MO for Baker Mayfield in Cleveland has always been, when you got to quick hurry up offense at the end of the half or at the end of the game, never really happened, right? He was in no end of these 2-minute situations, and invariably it didn't happen. They found some way of crapping out that drive, and it just didn't work. And that was my expectation this time, is, okay, this has been a nice story. He's done a good job to get this far. We've got a 98-yard drive to try and win it.
I have the text message proof, Sam. You didn't believe in him. I have the proof.
98-yard drive, never going to happen, right? This has been good. This has been impressive. And now's where he turns into a pumpkin. It's not going to happen. And it looked like it happened when he threw the interception, but it was a legitimate defensive penalty. I think it was a defensive penalty that absolutely kind of caused the interception, as opposed to a bad play that got bailed out by a defensive penalty. And then he just started dealing. Okay, again, got bailed out again by Jerry Tillery doing something stupid. But he had that really nice pass to Skoranek, kind of a let's give him a chance to make a play type of play, but hit a few different receivers, took checkdowns, and then that last pass to Van Jefferson was legitimately perfect.
That was actually the simplest thing. Throwing the checkdowns in the 2-minute drill with the game on the line seems like the simplest thing, and I think impressed me the most about Baker during that entire final drive, because in a lot of those 2-minute drills in Cleveland, it was a lot of low percentage shots and 3 straight incompletions, and before you know it, the game's over. But he kept the drive moving just by saying, okay, I'm going to look down the field. I'm going to hit the check down when it's there. And then when they did have man coverage, and you can debate this all day, the Raiders are in man coverage, right? They're playing one-on-one, rookie Sam Webb on the outside against Van Jefferson. It wasn't really bad coverage or anything, but Jefferson gets on top of him, and Baker Mayfield put it right on him. Incredible throw in crunch time there.
And after the game, Baker was saying himself that he was surprised they were playing man coverage in that situation, as, by the way, was everybody else. But he was expecting them to see, or he was expecting to see them check out of that late, right, and roll to something zone and take it away. And they didn't. They stayed in man coverage and stayed aggressive. And he just took the shot one-on-one on the outside, which is like, it's exactly what you expect a quarterback to do in that situation. It's what they're looking for. It's a gift to them. It was kind of crazy to play man coverage in that situation.
All right, the comparison to the last primetime game that we just saw is eerily similar. A couple things that the Raiders did here. They kick a field goal to go up 16-3 with 12 minutes left, much like the Saints did with 8 minutes left in the game. The Bucs scored their first touchdown with about 3 minutes left in the game, much like the Rams did at 3:19, and then the game winner for the Rams was with 10 seconds left. Bucs was with 3 seconds left. The same exact 17-16 score. I don't know if you want to talk at all from the Raiders' perspective here, but obviously massive heartbreak. They had won 3 straight, but now you're looking at a season where the Raiders have blown so many massive leads. Throw this one also into the mix here, and much like the Saints on Monday night, the Raiders punted on 4th and 1. It wasn't as egregious as the Saints. The Saints did it in Bucs territory. The Raiders would have been in their own territory, 4th and 1, and it would have been like the 2009, the famous 4th and 2, Bill Belichick going for it. If you get it, the game's over. The Raiders chose to punt, which isn't crazy. And then the punt went to the 2, which is like, all right, you have it. And then Baker Mayfield decided to become John Elway. The drive, 98 yards.
I have to say, in the, all the sort of anti-analytics people, they're always like, well, the model can't take into account the left guard on a Sunday in bad weather and blah, blah, right? One thing I'm going to say that the model doesn't actually take into account is that the quarterback arrived here 2 days ago off a plane and has had literally 48 hours to pick up the playbook. I don't think there's data for that. So if there was ever a situation where punting it away and making the quarterback go 98 yards to win the game made sense, it feels like this was one, right? I'm always a fan of, you've got one play, 1 yard, win the game. But if ever I think there was a forgivable decision to kick it away and make the quarterback go 98 yards, apparently, this would be it. Like, who knows?
I think it was right.
Yeah.
It was the Raiders were on their own 34. Sorry to interrupt. I'm sorry. Their own 34. It was 4th and 1. And they punt a 68-yarder to the 2-yard line. I mean, that is about as good as it gets for the Raiders until they started playing defense.
With, by the way, I think the best punter in the NFL. Like, the Raiders, A.J. Cole is the best punter in football right now and has been for a while. He has by far the best combination of hang time, distance, direction, everything you want. So you have the best punter in the NFL kicking to a guy who got in the building less than 2 days ago to try and execute a 98-yard drive, apparently. I think that's entirely forgivable. And certainly the idea of, like, one team was kicking to Tom Brady, one team was kicking to Baker Mayfield with 48 hours of research time on this. That's a differentiator.
Yes, it was. I don't think it was the wrong move, but it's still a heartbreaker for the Raiders. You're talking Amik Robertson with the pass interference that you mentioned, Jerry Tillery with the unsportsmanlike conduct. So you've got, a couple huge penalties in there. The big pass to Skoranek, and then the game winner to Van Jefferson. That's how it all came about. But, going forward, Sam, does this mean anything, right? Is this the thing that's going to spark Baker Mayfield's career? If the Rams, when they get more than a day and a half of Baker Mayfield, can they, be the team that gets the most out of him?
I mean, I will say for the second week in a row, that offensive line did not look catastrophic. This was the first week of the season, I think, where they had the same starting offensive line for 2 consecutive games. So that is significant. And it's the 2 consecutive games that have both been okay performance-wise. Like, Rob Havenstein, I think, was the worst performer today because he was going up against Max Crosby. And Rob Havenstein has been the best and only consistent part of that offensive line throughout the rest of the season. So if that line all of a sudden actually becomes viable, Baker Mayfield has shown that he can throw the ball to Ben Skoranek and Van Jefferson and whoever else, like literally having never met them before. Like, I think he said he had 20 throws of practice before this game started. So sure, like what the hell? It's not the disaster I thought it was going to be. It functioned.
Nothing about Baker Mayfield's career ever makes sense, Sam.
Yeah.
You know that. We went down the whole rundown this week, and nothing makes sense. Neither does this. A 98-yard drive to win it. Great job by Baker Mayfield. Reminiscent of his first major action in the NFL back in 2018 on a Thursday night, week 3, where he was a hero for the Browns. We'll see what it means going forward. But this was our PFF emergency